Hello, this is your teacher, Miss Wright. This is a tutorial of how to successfully complete Chapter 6, Sections 1, 2, and 3. Section 1 deals with preparing the trial balance column of the worksheet. Section 2 deals with calculating the adjustments column of your worksheet. And Section 3 deals with extending those updated totals to the balance sheet and to the income statement columns, as well as calculating net income or net loss, depending on the amount of sales and expenses in the income statement. This will be a step-by-step tutorial. Hope this helps. The first step in preparing a worksheet is to prepare the heading of the worksheet. There are three parts to your heading. You have the name of the company on the first line, which is centered. The report title, which is a worksheet, is also centered. And the date, which is the third line. The date is written for the month ended and whatever month you're in. For instance, if it's February, it's dated the last day of the month, or even if it's November, the month in which we are in, would be for the month ended November 30th, 2011. The worksheet is always dated the last day of the fiscal period or the fiscal month that the worksheet is prepared in. I'll repeat that. The first line, the name of the company. The second line, the report title or worksheet. And worksheet is two separate words. The third line is your date in the format that you see. All parts of the heading are centered. Names of companies are capitalized. The report title is capitalized as you see it on your screen, and the date is written as you see it on your screen. Also, you may have to click the spacebar key in order for Techno Consulting worksheet for the month ended to appear. There's a visual at the bottom of this screen that lets you see how the heading is prepared. It is very important that you understand what the trial balance column of the worksheet is. The trial balance column of the worksheet holds the beginning balances for each account, as you see on your screen. Cash has a beginning balance of $4,964, as Kim Park Drawing has a beginning balance of $625. All of the balances in the trial balance are balances at the beginning of the month of August, since this worksheet is dated at the end of August. Notice how the worksheet is prepared. The trial balance contains information for beginning balances only. This information is copied directly from your book, or even it may be a handout that the teacher will give you, but this information is generally supplied. You do no figuring to find this. You just simply transfer from a copy to your worksheet. Accounts that have no balances displayed do not have beginning balances, but they may have ending balances. This will be further explained in another slide. You must total and rule the columns of the trial balance before you complete the adjustments column. Notice your trial balance. There's a single line drawn after the last entry across the debit and credit columns. You will add up each column individually, record the balances, and draw a double line after your totals have been calculated. Remember that the debit and the credit column totals must equal in the trial balance. When you are finished with the trial balance, you will then do the adjustments column. Preparing the adjustments column can be difficult for some students. When you are taking this number from your book, it's important to understand the date of the amount that's given to you. Most of the time, the book will give you an end of the month date like December 31st, January 31st, March the 31st, August the 31st, or maybe September the 30th, November the 30th, those dates, or October the 31st. It's always dated at the end of the month in your book. And you have to remember what I've said previously. Only beginning balances are in a trial balance. Your ending balances, those that are dated with the last day of the month, will go either on the balance sheet or the income statement. And that depends on which account those balances are connected to. Let's take a look at prepaid insurance and insurance, um, those accounts. Now, prepaid insurance has another account that it's connected to, that's insurance expense. Supplies has another account that it's connected to, and that's supplies expense. Although at the bottom, what you see is supplies expense and you don't see supplies. Now, I want you to simply focus on what you see at the top. Do not notice the bottom part, but just the top part that shows prepaid insurance. Because what you do to prepaid insurance, you're going to do the same to supplies, although you don't see it here. The book will give you an end of the month amount. That amount is recorded in the balance sheet debit column. You have to figure out what the adjustment is, and whatever that number is, it's recorded in the credit column of the adjustments column. Now, prepaid insurance undoubtedly had an end of the month balance of $1,100. Now, Miss Wright, where do you get that from? Well, I take a look at how much I used, which is $100, how much I started with, which was $1,200. So that means I'm left with $1,100. That $1,100 will be recorded in the balance sheet debit column of this worksheet. That's how that's figured. Now, if I do something to one account, there has to be another account that I do the same thing to. So if I'm using prepaid insurance as an adjustment, insurance expense has to be debited. Likewise, if I'm using supplies and I'm doing an adjustment to supplies in the credit column, I have to use supplies expense as the debited account in the adjustments column. The adjustments column totals of the debit and credit columns must equal as the trial balance debit and credit columns totals had to equal. Now, I hope this makes sense to you. Remember, the adjustment amount is only the amount that you've used during your business period. The balance sheet shows what you have left, not what you've used, but what you have left. What you have left is only reflected at the end of the month. That's why this worksheet is dated the very last day of the month, okay? After preparing the trial balance and adjustments column information, all of the data has been put into both the trial balance column and the adjustments column. Both of the columns have to be total. You total both the debit and credit columns for both trial balance and adjustments column. Draw a single line to signal that you're about to perform some calculations. Notice where the single line is drawn. Under the last entry for the trial balance, all the way across through the end of the adjustments column, which is where the credit is. Both of the columns are totaled. Now, the debit and credit for the trial balance must equal. Notice that the debit and credit for the adjustment must equal. You will have two entries for your adjustments debit. You're going to have a supplies expense and an insurance expense entry for the debit column of the adjustments column. Now, for the credit section of the adjustments column, you're going to have a credit entry for prepaid insurance and a credit entry for supplies. Both of those will total $815 for each side. When calculations are done, draw a double line to signal that you are through and that the debit and credits do equal. Now, we're going to the next slide.